Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming as a Career. Today we have Ron as our special guest. Ron is a veteran in the scene of gaming. He's been in this career for so long, I believe since early 2000 he started. Hello, Ron. Welcome and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, Ali. So my first name's Ron. In the gaming world, I go by Rambo. I guess you could say I was part of the first wave of esports professionals. I'm 38 now, and I started my professional playing career around when I was 17. This was early 2000s, early 2001, when internet was just coming out, high-speed internet, computers and stuff. So got in there super early. Was lucky that a lot of my high school friends played. So actually, we would invade our parents' houses on every weekend and try to find a living room, and we would have LAN parties. So we would get up to 10 people sometimes. So we'd have like full 5-on-5 like LAN sessions, zero ping, with really good gamers. So the development there was really great. Parents were really supportive. Considering their Asian parents are, on that standard, they were really supportive, let me kind of do my own thing. Um, and, just found out I was really good at it. It's something that I really enjoyed doing. I wanted to just become the best at it. It was just one of those things that it just clicked all the boxes. It was mentally stimulating, competitively stimulating, and it was just a ton of fun. So just focused on that, and luckily I turned out pretty good. And that's kind of what catapulted me into my playing career.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I remember those days, like LAN days, technology was not there. The streaming was not a big thing. I definitely remember that. What do you currently do?
So currently I work for AimLab. It's a gaming development software company, you could say. AimLab, the product in particular, it helps FPS gamers get better at aiming and training through videos, training scenarios and tasks. We have content. We have a coaching platform called Playerbase. So I'm the director of esports for AimLab. I have a YouTube channel under Ron Rambo Kim, where I make videos teaching stuff that I learned from my playing and coaching career. And then on the side, I give lessons.
That's great. So, for the folks who want to connect with Ron and follow him, I'll put the links in the description for you to, follow him on YouTube and, um, connect with him if you are interested. So, who inspired you?
Um, as in like gaming, I mean, I guess back then, gaming, there was no esports. It was still just video gaming. There wasn't competitive tournaments, like prize money salaries or streaming really. So, um, I guess my inspirations were just my competition. So the
Mhm.
people I was playing against, those were the people that inspired me to play better. Um, I guess some Quake 3 was one of the games I really enjoyed. So my main game of choice was Counter-Strike 1.6. That's what I played competitively, but also played a ton of other games on the side. So maybe some inspirations like from Warcraft 3. I was a big fan of Grubby. Quake 3, Fatality is a good friend of mine. He was really good. StarCraft players. So I mean, I was a fan of all kinds of other games, but um, yeah, again, since it was just so early, we didn't have any like game film to look after or other
Yeah,
like pros to watch. So
yeah,
yeah, it was just
definitely.
kind of inspiration was who I was playing with at the time and against.
That's great. Yeah, I totally understand. The scene has changed a lot. So, at what point it turned to be a career for you? And like, what made you to think about dedicating your time and life in becoming a professional gamer? So what was in there for you?
Yeah, I think well before I started like before I got a sponsors and joined an official organization and got salary, We were attending local tournaments in the Dallas area. That's where I grew up. So we would go to these local LAN centers, and teams would put in like $100 or whatever per team.
Mhm.
Um, and then the winning team would take it. So sometimes there'd be 5 teams, sometimes it'd be like 15 teams. So we would just play those whenever we could, and just started winning some pocket money. Luckily for me, the biggest tournaments were in Dallas. So at the time, they were called CPL, Cyber Athlete Professional League, and then there was QuakeCon, and both those happened in Dallas. So everyone in the world flew down for those events, and they happen maybe twice a year. So for me, it was just like a 30-minute drive. So super lucky I got to attend those events to kind of just see where my game was at. And we ended up winning one of those, winning some of like the BYOC LAN events, like bring your own computer events. They weren't really official, but just for the attendees. So started winning those, and figured out it was really good. So that pushed me even more. And then what kind of officially signed me as a professional was when we went to the World Cyber Games in Korea. We won like the qualifier in America to prove ourselves the best team. So we went there to represent the US, and we got second or third, I believe, in that. And then got reached out by a man named Craig Levine, or Torble is his gaming name. Now he's like the co-CEO of ESL, I believe. So, but back then he was just like some kid from New York going to business school, and he's like, hey, uh, let's start a team. Like, I want to be your manager, and I'll get you sponsors and stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
deal, like, if this is crazy. So yeah, he got us, sponsors like Intel, Subway, CompUSA, Nvidia, got us full salary, got all our airplane and hotel and food, everything taken care of. So literally any event we
Cool.
wanted to attend, it was
Mhm.
it was all there. So that's when we were able to really practice full time, 5 days a week, 5-6 hours a day, and really take it as a serious job.
That's interesting. What a journey. So it has started out as a pure passion and then turned into a professional route. That's very interesting. So when you look back, um, and when you look at the current industry of gaming, um, would you think that gaming would survive as a viable career? Is this something for the future generations to look for? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you look at gaming 10 years ago compared to now, it's 10x what I would imagine it would be. But it doesn't surprise me, because gaming is one of those things that all you need is an internet and a console or a PC, and then you can compete and play. So it doesn't matter what age you are, your gender, your location. Um, you just need to get online. And now there's so many viable esports games that you can go professional at. And now it's taking over as like probably like art this generation's
Uh-huh.
main source of entertainment.
Mhm.
So, you would have sports, but now you have esports, right? Like video games. So it's just so easily accessible. You could play it anytime. Um, it's a lot more affordable than sports. You don't need gear. You don't need to travel. It's just, plug and play. And it's just ton of fun to watch. You have all these different genres of video games. So if you like strategy, if you like first person shooters, you like sports games, like whatever, fancies you, there's a game for you to play and watch. So I think from a playing and pro playing aspect, it's the salaries are bigger than ever. The tournament prizes, the sponsors are huge.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't want to go the competitive playing route, you could become a streamer. If you're entertaining, if people just like watching you play, right? Like you're funny or have good commentary, or if you're a good teacher. So if you're teaching people how to get better and you're being valuable in that way, you can build a huge following and community. So through revenue from streaming, and subscriptions, Patreon and all the different like tiers that you have now on Twitch, YouTube,
Yeah.
um, and then the actual like business side of the industry, you could become a programmer. Like there's no, if you know how to code, you'll always have a job in video gaming.
Yeah.
You can learn, map or level designing with Unity. Unreal Editor. You can become a playtester. You could become an animation artist. There's just so many different sectors in the video game development industry that now are in such high demand
Yeah.
because uh, I mean, I think, the guy who created Minecraft sold it for like $1 billion to Microsoft.
Hmm.
So it's just like, if you have a really cool idea for a video game, or if you can be a part of kind of a development team, you can make these huge games that just blow up. So
Yeah.
there's tons of different ways you can find work in the industry.
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities out there for people, not just as the gamer, also maybe a lot of the programming, design, or maybe story writing. There are jobs for story writing and plot development for games, storyline design, and things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities out there for people who are passionate about gaming and want to be involved. So, what about the social aspect? Uh, has there been instance in which you felt like you don't want to tell people that you do gaming for a living? Like, how does society look at gamers today? Or in the past, has it changed?
I would say it's definitely changed. I think, video game has become more mainstream. I think more people are kind of seeing it as um, a competitive sport. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, video games looked like crap. It was just like super pixelated. It was like you could tell it's a video game. But now
Uh-huh.
the game's much more appealing to watch as a spectator. And you see the game, you kind of understand what's going on better because it looks cleaner. The physics are better, player movement, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming more mainstream. People are like, now understanding what esports actually means.
Uh-huh.
So there's like video games, which is like casual and fun, but now there's esports, which is competitive gaming. Um, so I think it's picked up. Like um, I think other companies like uh, Coca-Cola and Nike and all these other non-gaming companies recognize the opportunities there as well. So they've
Uh-huh.
started kind of joining the bandwagon and accepting esports as something like this thing is for real, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a community, there's a whole infrastructure and economy behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think when I tell people like when I'm on an airplane or whatever, I'm traveling and they ask me what I do. Like when I go to tournaments, I tell them, well, I'm a professional video gamer. And then they think, oh, you play like poker or cards or something. Like they don't think of video games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's usually like the response I get from most people. But
Hmm.
then I tell them, we have a team and we practice and we have tournaments and stuff. They're like, oh, okay, well, I mean, that's pretty cool. So I think, if you pulled out 10 people randomly from the street, anyone over the age of 40 probably doesn't know what esports is,
Yeah.
but I would say, now under 40, a lot of them do.
Yeah. 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 So did you have challenges with your parents when you were trying to, get into this? And if so, what were the challenges?
I think, well, I was lucky because my parents, like, they were often at work, so they weren't at home often. So they needed something to keep me busy, and that was video games. So, they got me Nintendo, Super Nintendo, like Game Boy, eventually a computer. So it was a way for me to, keep entertained. So they kind of used that as a babysitting tool, and um, but then like during high school, my grades definitely did suffer a little bit because that's when I was getting a bit older. I was like attending tournaments and events.
Hmm.
Um, so I'd sacrifice to some of my sleep quality for playing and practicing. So I mean, there were times when they would like hide my keyboard and mouse, and I'd have to go find it and
Yeah.
then sneak it back into the hiding place before they got home.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so those were those moments. But like after I graduated high school and I started, actually like I went to Korea and Italy and all these different places and getting a salary, they're like, okay, well, he's actually making something, doing something, right? Like getting experiences and bringing in some money. So After that point, they were fully supportive.
That's great. That's great. So, um, so how, let's say currently the audience are listening, of course, they're thinking about getting into gaming. They are maybe in high school or maybe in university. They are contemplating, dedicating their time and life to become a gamer. And they want to, convince their parents and receive their support. What kind of advice do you have for these people? Like what they can do to obtain family support for them to become a gamer and dedicate their time and effort in this. So do you have any suggestions and advice that comes from the experience?
Yeah, I think there's like two parts to this. One part is that, the obvious dream is to become a pro gamer, like, you know, get signed up for an organization, play in tournaments, and get a salary and all that stuff. The second part's like working in the industry. So if you're going to become a developer, a designer, whatever, an animation artist, and there's that aspect. So there's two different skill sets you need to learn. One is the skills to be an animator, a designer, a coder, right? Like you got to learn software and
Yeah,
programs. And then the playing part is the more difficult part because
yeah,
everyone wants to do that. And it's the competition's fierce. It's like any other sport, basketball to go to the NBA.
yeah,
Um, hundreds and thousands of people play basketball, but only 200 get to become professional, like a viable professional.
yeah.
And then there's like the secondary league, and you can make some money there and so make a living. So maybe 500 people out of hundreds of thousands. So like to keep it real, there's no guarantee, right? Like even if you play 20 hours a day or whatever it is, um, there's still no guarantee. So there's a risk there involved. There's all this time and effort you put in, but there's still no guarantee. So um, you need to consider that, right? The other thing too is like some people play and practice to become pro, but they're not all in. Like when I played and practiced, that's all I wanted. That's my entire life. Like sleep, till every waking moment was to practice, thinking about the game, watching demos, self-improvement and stuff. So there was an addiction part of it, kind of like this obsessiveness that I had to have. And that's what helped me put in the 10,000 hours or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Where some people, I think there's a difference between playing for fun and then going all in. So
So,
yeah.
do you think like if someone wants to, dedicate their time, start with streaming and then maybe going the professional route, joining teams and all, and they have their parents who wants them to go to college, find a, 9 to 5 job, 5 days a week. So, um, how they could overcome this challenge, how they could get their parents' support in terms of let's say they want to say, okay, mom, dad, I want to do this. I'm good at it. I want to do this. I'm sure I want to be successful. I will be successful. And they'll be like, no, this is games. You're wasting your time. Like, is there something that they could do about it? Is there something that they can tell their parents? Um, like, uh,
Yeah. Yeah. What I would say is, if you're in high school, middle school, and you really want to make gaming a career, you need to make a deal with your parents. So, and you also need to have like an ultimatum. And what I mean by that is like, okay, well, I promise to do all my homework and I promise to get all B's, but and if I do that, then can I play for like 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day? So there needs to be a trade-off.
yeah.
They need to see something. You need to give them something for them to give you that time.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some balance. You can't, So, um, and I would also say a lot of pro gamers that I know, they made a deal with their parents as in terms of like, okay, give me 6 months, give me 1 year,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to do this all in. And if I don't win a tournament or if I don't get signed to a top team or whatever, then I'll stop and I'll go to school. So you need to have that kind of deal or relationship with your parent. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
That's a great advice there. So for the people who want to consider this, that's a very good advice. Yeah, thank you, Ron, for that. So you talked about addiction a little bit. Um, do you mind telling us a little bit more about that? Like, uh, did it get out of control, or how a gamer is there a certain training, a certain planning they could do to, mm, create a game slash life balance for themselves? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely all I wanted to do with my life, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because it's, I bet Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, whoever it is, I'm not saying I'm close to their quality, but those type of people, they had an addiction and they just wanted to be the best at their craft and win. And I had that same mentality. So there are definitely times when I lost balance of my personal health. Maybe I played too much, or maybe I could have done more exercising, taking care of my body, or eaten better, got more sunlight, stay more hydrated, that kind of stuff. So there's definitely times when I lapse on that. Um, and those are the things that actually, looking back and now that I'm older, that I know directly impact your performance.
Yeah.
So, how well you take care of yourself out of the game provides you energy in game and focus level and sustained focus, and you're in a better mood and your mind's just quicker and snappier. So all these things out of the game, quality of sleep is a huge one, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to focus and play well if you're drowsy and you're sleepy and you just got crap sleep.
Hmm.
So, a good circadian rhythm, like waking up and sleeping at the same time, the research shows just how much of a positive impact that has on focus level
Hmm.
compared to waking up at different times all day, because you're just fluctuating and you can't really know the consistency of your focus when your sleep schedule is all broken.
Yeah.
So, um, looking back, I'm sure if I would have done those things, I would have been a better player.
Yeah.
And so, those are the kind of things that you don't really think about as a teenager or a younger kid.
Yeah.
Just being more responsible with that work, practice, and life balance.
Life balance and practice, getting enough sleep. Uh, is there any special mind training that you would recommend people do, or is this something that you would recommend people do during coaching apart from getting enough sleep?
Um, I mean, just the foundational stuff is pick a time and go to sleep around that time, 1 hour
Uh-huh.
or so, and try to wake up 1 hour around the same. Wake up and sleep 1 hour difference. Always have water around you. So I have this big thing, and I'm always drinking this. Sometimes you just play like 2 or 3 hours and you forget to drink.
Yeah.
So stay hydrated. Try to get some sunlight when you wake up. It's proven to help wake you up. Um, Exercising, like anytime you work out or exercise, right, you just feel like $1 million every time without fail. So if you could
Yeah.
try to squeeze one of those in before you play, it's going to make you think better.
Yeah.
um if you're just in a good mood, like I said, if you're doing things to make yourself positive and happy, your communications are better in game, you work better with your teammates. You're less likely to tilt or become like, a negative thinking pattern if something bad happens in game.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like the foundational pieces. It's all like the boring stuff, but if you can do any of those, I guarantee it'll help. Um, and then just kind of the more practical, like detailed stuff. Um, I mean, always learn from your mistakes. If you die, if you're watching demos, think back, like, where was my fatal mistake? Should I have gone left instead of going right? Was my timing messed up? Positioning? Was my mechanics or shots off? Like, where did that mistake happen? And then you fix it.
Yeah.
And every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn, type
Mhm.
thing.
Yes.
So I made thousands in mistakes when I played, but I learned from every one of them. So eventually I got to a point where I didn't make mistakes, right? Like, rarely make mistakes, always winning the rounds that I should win, the high percentage rounds, and not throwing rounds when they're in my grasp, right?
Yeah.
So closing the rounds when you need to. Um, yeah, and I would say, finding a coach or a mentor is always great, right? Someone that's been there and done that. You can ask questions and kind of learn from them and shortcut
Yeah.
your learning path. Then I would say watch demos and replays, right? Like there's so many valuable resources online where you can watch videos of people and see how they do it. It's like, okay, if I'm watching Michael Jordan, okay, this is what it looks like to
Mhm.
be the best. Here are the moves they are doing. Here's like, why are they, you pick apart their game and you figure out how can I implement that to my game? So, whether it's sports or like business or investing or whatever it is, there's so many tools online, videos online on YouTube especially, where you can just type in whatever you want to learn and it's just free. So um, I would just apply that kind of knowledge seeking, um, um, kind of that knowledge seeking and searching for knowledge and just constantly trying to get better.
Great advices over there, people. So, apart from getting enough sleep, practicing, exercise is very important, staying hydrated. There are some physical exercises, stretching and strengthening your muscles, continuously, because you might be spending hours and hours sitting on a chair playing games. So try to stretch as much as you can, people. So these things are important. So so what about the financial viability? We kind of talked about this a little bit, but do you know like which platforms are, currently the best platforms for players who want to, generate some income, and like what's the outcome, the income perspective for players in the industry currently? Like, are there estimated numbers that the players are making? So what's your take on that?
I would say there's probably like 8 or 10 viable esports titles that provide where you can make a career out of it. So full salary, they have big tournament prize winnings and big enough community, where you could uh, build a community and they like donate to you and you get subscriptions and stuff. Like the big games, like I mean, like Dota 2. So okay, so go back to my point of like out of the hundreds of thousands and millions of players that play these games, like 0.01% make a living. But those people make a lot of money. So in Dota 2, they have the international where like it's only once a year, but if you make it, if you're like a top 8, 12 team, like you're making hundreds of $1,000s each. Some are making millions each if
Yeah.
you win first. If you play a game like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, if you're a top 20 team, you're probably, well, if you're a top 10 team, you're definitely making over six figures a year. If you're a top 20 team, you're making probably, 50 to 100K plus any prize winnings.
Hmm.
So, and then, you get all your equipment stuff provided for, right? Like your chair and your computer and all that stuff. Some people have like team houses that get where all your bills and stuff get paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's, about 8, 10 games I would say you could do this in. League of Legends. I think StarCraft 2, not as much, but you can still make a living.
Yeah.
I know PUBG was up there, Apex Legends. So there's the top 8, 10 games as a player. So, but again, if you're not a top tier 1 team, if you're a tier 2 team, you can make like 15 to 30K maybe. You still got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, I would say it's very lopsided. You make a lot at the top, you make zero at the bottom. Um, I mean, if you're a programmer, you're making 100K, right? Like average as a developer, a coder. Um, Animators are probably up there, like level designers around there. So like if you can learn the software and programs in the game development industry, you can find jobs pretty readily,
Hmm.
especially if you have a good portfolio that shows that you can actually make good stuff.
Hmm.
Um, And yeah, once you're in the industry, it's much easier to just keep finding jobs. Like, so, and then some streamers now, again, I think the streamer thing, it's more spread evenly. So there's
Uh-huh.
people that make millions of dollars, like Ninja, um, and Tim the Tap Man, like Dr. Disrespect, those kind of streamers make millions of dollars. And then there's people, that at every tier, right? There's people that make a few 100,000, there's people that make 20, 30, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of more entry, but I would say there's like millions of people trying to stream with like 5 to 10 viewers. Um, but there's a lot more people that have like 30 to 1,000 streamers.
Hmm.
And then there's, if you're above 1,000, then like, okay, well, you're now you can build some momentum. It's like
Yeah.
if you have over 1,000 streamers or people watching you while you stream, you I would keep doing it. Like, I know you're obviously doing something right. So you just need to get in front of more eyes, and you can pick up some more momentum there.
Over 1,000, was that the number you took?
Yeah, I'm just throwing out a number. I mean, even I would even say like 500 people are
Uh-huh.
watching you at a time, then you're at a good pace. Like, you can get to the next level if
Yeah.
you just keep working on getting better and being more entertaining. Whatever it is that you're providing, entertainment or value. Um, and then there's so many different platforms now. Like, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, like all these places you can post your content.
Uh-huh.
So if you can recycle your content, it's really good. So if I make if I make this really cool, if I have this crazy highlight film or clip that's like a minute long,
Hmm.
if I spread those on all those platforms, that gives me a higher chance to reach more people on different communities, right?
Yeah.
So there's this aspect of where you need to put in the work outside of the game to promote yourself, like the business side.
Yeah.
And most people don't like doing that because you just want to play. Like, that's
Yeah.
work.
Hmm.
But if you want to make it work, right? It's like there's work and then there's play. You
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
able to put that time in and do that to sell yourself. Because if you're not going to do it, no one else is. Until you get bigger, you can get an agent and like a video editor and all that, a staff to help you. But in the beginning, you have to build yourself. It's the only way. So I would say learn a video editing software, and there's free ones out there. Just, Google search it, and you can go to YouTube, be like, how to learn this software. And that's what I did when I started.
Yeah.
I think I used like Keyframe or something. It was like literally just a free one. Then eventually I upgraded, to like better software. But I would say, yeah, if you're a content creator, you got to learn how to make content and then edit it and then post it on those social platforms. And then that's the fastest way to grow your community.
Yeah, great advices over there. So there are also some, I kind of get the sense that to some extent, some games or maybe slash markets are sort of saturated. It's very difficult to get in, it seems. But I believe there are opportunities out there for people. So we are getting to the conclusion slash wrap up part of the podcast slash interview with Ron. For the people who are listening to this, you don't have this view as I do. Ron has a lot of awards and medals behind him on the wall. So that shows the potentials of the career for the people who are listening. So looking back, would you select gaming as a career?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So looking back, would you select gaming as a career?
Yeah, I'm totally content, happy with where I'm at in my life, and what I've done, and all the experiences I've got to have through gaming, through traveling, and all the people I've met, and all the fun I've had. So I wouldn't have changed a thing.
That's great. That's wonderful. That's a positive sign. And what is the most important advice for people who like to pursue gaming as a career? If you want to pick one most important advice, what that would be?
Um, I would say just going back to the two different paths. So one is like playing and competitive side, and one's on like the non-playing and competitive side. And there's a lot more opportunities on the non-playing side. So development, um, working for a peripheral company, going into like working for corporate, um, event planning, like partnerships. There's so many different jobs in that area,
Mhm.
and in order to separate yourself and kind of get hired over someone else, is you need to develop skills. So um, in the development side, there's all these different softwares that you need to learn to make games or whatever it is. So you
Mhm.
can go on YouTube and learn for free. Like everything is available online for free, or like a $10 subscription to, those like teaching websites with courses and stuff. So
Yep.
super, super cheap. But if you kind of spend the time and focus on that, you can make a full-time job out of that and provide for yourself, and have that security. So I would say that, I mean, I think video editing is also a huge skill that I've used, um, just so many times. So like, obviously, I make video content to teach people how to get better, and
Yeah.
I'm able to, edit and cut that, make it clean and very presentable. So people are, it's very efficient, right? So, but I've also used it to give like presentations and pitches in business. So if we're working with another company or partnership, instead of sending like a PDF document or a PowerPoint slide with just images and text, super boring, I send them a video. And everything is just, the flow is already created. I have a voiceover. And just sit back and relax, and they can just focus on what's the message here, what's the deal, what are, so that is a much more fun way to absorb information than it is to click through Excel sheets, PowerPoints, whatever. So I would say learn video editing. Also great for, again, promoting yourself on social media, cutting that same piece of content up 5 times and posting on all these platforms. So that's definitely a huge skill. I would say another skill too is like learning English or whatever your main language is, and just being able to read and write. So whether that's writing an email or you're talking with someone online or whatever, just constructing your sentences and your words together where it's like very, you know, it gets your message across. And that simple like ability will help people understand you and um, help build relationships, I guess, in a way too. So just being able to read and write, communicate, good grammar, good sentence structure is such a valuable skill. Because if you don't know how to communicate or write, people will never understand you, or you'll never persuade someone, or you'll never share an idea or be able to get across your message the way exactly you want.
Yeah.
So uh, the worst thing is like you're trying to read a sentence and it's like it's all you get lost, right? So
Yeah.
working on those skills, um, yeah. And I would say, yeah, I would just say that. I mean, gosh, there's so many free resources online. I just
Yeah.
want to reiterate that point. Like YouTube, I learned so much from YouTube. It's just the free, endless, vast resources of the library. We can learn
Yeah.
any skill that you want.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that.
Thank you, Ron. So to sum it up, you would definitely advise people to learn video editing and work on their English if they want to, publish a content or something. I mean, that's obviously very important, especially for the people who are outside of the US and try to reach a different market, obviously. All right. Thank you, Ron. It was a pleasure talking to you. I personally learned a lot, and I hope the audience have learned a lot too. If they're considering to pursue gaming as a career, um, I hope they listen to this episode and share this with their friends or loved ones who are considering this. And of course, you can follow Ron on YouTube. he has a lot of great content for the people who are interested. So yeah, thank you, Ron.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Ollie.